Welcome to the Peak Endurance Podcast. Episode 116 is an interview with Dean Karnazes. Dean is a two-time New York Times best-selling author and an icon in the running world. Time magazine named Karnazes one of the 100 most influential people in the world. An internationally acclaimed endurance athlete, he is the winner of an ESPN ESPY, a three-time winner of Competitor Magazine's Endurance Sports Athlete of the Year award, and the recipient of the President's Council on Sports Fitness and Nutrition Lifetime Achievement Award. Dean has just put out his latest book, A Runner's High, Older, Wiser, Slower, Stronger. The description of his book goes like this. In A Runner's High, Karnazes chronicles his return to the Western States 100-mile endurance run in his mid-50s after first completing the race decades ago. The Western States, infamous for its rugged terrain and extreme temperatures, becomes the most demanding competition of his life. A physical and emotional reckoning and a battle to stay true to one's purpose. Confronting his age, wearying body, career path, and life choices, we see Karnazes as we never have before, raw and exposed. A Runner's High is both an endorphin-fuelled page-turner and a love letter to the sport from one of its most celebrated ambassadors. I've just finished reading this book and I have to agree with this description. It is a great read. To be honest, I find it hard to put down. I hope you enjoy our chat about his book and Dean's running life in general. If you do enjoy this podcast, please go on over to Apple Podcasts or whatever platform you listen on to rate, review, and subscribe. It really helps grow the audience and the show, and I do appreciate your help and the time you take. Are injuries or niggles ruining your enjoyment of running and hindering your performance? Get on top of these and see the specialists at Health and High Performance. Utilising the latest in technology and with a wealth of experience, the team at Health and High Performance can assist you with all of your running injury and performance needs. So to get back to enjoying your running and achieving the results you are capable of, head to healthhp.com.au/run or find them on Instagram, Health High Performance. Health and High Performance are located in Mont Albert, Melbourne, but are available for telehealth appointments not only Australia-wide, but also around the world. Contact them on their website to find out more. Wild Earth Australia are the online store to help you make the most of the outdoors with top quality gear at great prices. Peak Endurance Podcast listeners can use the discount code Peak Endurance, all capitals, to get 10% off their already awesome prices at checkout. Head on over to wildearth.com.au to get everything you need for your next big adventure. Peak Endurance Coaching will help you achieve your running goals through providing customized plans that reflect your commitments in life and your athletic history. You will become fitter, faster and stronger whilst becoming part of the Peak Endurance Coaching community. Don't waste a minute of your running journey. Email me, Isabel, at peakendurancecoaching.com.au to get a program designed just for you started. I really hope you enjoyed this chat with Dean. I know I certainly did. Also, have a great week of running and I'll catch you on the next episode. Hi, Dean, and welcome to the Peak Endurance Podcast.
Thanks for having me run by.
Yeah, no worries. Now, for those listeners who don't know you, I can't imagine that there's any. Can you just tell the listeners a bit about yourself, your athlete background, and how you got into ultra running?
Yeah, well, I got into ultra running by walking out of a nightclub, on the night of my 30th birthday. When I decided instead of having more tequila to celebrate, I was going to run 30 miles, which is about 50 kilometers. And didn't own running gear at the time, but I had on, silk boxer shorts, like silk underwear. So I took off my pants and just started stumbling down the road. I knew there was a city called Half Moon Bay that was 30 miles away. And I set my sights on Half Moon Bay. Somehow I lived, I'm not sure how, but I ran all night. It was about 7 hours, and
wow,
I somehow made it and decided at that point I was going to become a runner.
So were you sober by the end of that?
I was sober about halfway through it, and I thought, this is the dumbest thing I've ever done.
Yeah.
But I was out in the middle of nowhere, so I couldn't turn back, and so I
No.
just kept going.
Yeah, fair enough. Now, you've done some amazing races over the years. Can you tell us which one was your favorite and why, and also maybe your least favorite and why?
Yeah, I mean, I've run on all 7 continents twice now, and so I've raced and competed across the globe. And some of my favorite races are Patagonia is amazing, the Canadian Rockies, the Dolomites in northern Italy, Greece is incredible, and Australia. I've done some running across Australia. One time I ran to the top of Mount Kosciuszko to Sydney. So it was called Summit to Sydney, and it was 600 kilometers, and I ran in 6 days across Australia.
Wow, I didn't even know about that one. So there you
That
go.
was a
So
good
what?
one. Yeah.
And has there been any least favorites, like races that you'd rather forget?
Well, there's a race called the Badwater Ultra Marathon, which is across 135-mile nonstop foot race, or 216 kilometers across Death Valley in the middle of summer, where the temperatures can get up to 50 degrees. And I would say that was pretty horrible. Although I've done it 10 times, so it's not that horrible, I guess, for me.
You must. It must be like you kind of forget how horrible it is. Now, you've written a number of books. First of which was Ultra Marathon Man, which I loved, and which got many people into ultra running. And you've just put out a book, A Runner's High: Older, Wiser, Stronger. Can you tell us a bit about the choice of title?
Yeah, I mean, Runner's High is my 5th book, and Ultra Marathon Man was my first book. And it's coming. Ultra Marathon Man is a coming of age book, talking about me learning about this crazy sport of ultra marathoning, and kind of getting into it, and finding that there's conflicted pleasure in pain and suffering and hardship. And 25 years later, I'm still doing it. And I thought A Runner's High would kind of tell the story of what that path has been like, the highs, the lows, and everything in between, as well as I wanted it to be a good story. Like, I wanted it to be very propulsive. I wanted the reader to enjoy it, to have some literary pleasure in reading the book. This pandemic's been so horrible for so many people, and like a good run, if you can get into a good book, you kind of forget about the world and the problems for a bit of time, and when you come out of that state, or you reemerge, you feel like you've kind of been rejuvenated.
Yeah, I would have to agree. I've read it myself, and I have to say it was great, and I really got into it and didn't want to put it down, which is hard when you're reading at night and you've got to get up early for a run in the morning. So you talk a bit about your experience with getting older. So how have you had that experience as an athlete?
It's, I got to admit, it's been tough. You watch your speed decrease, and you end up having to work twice as hard, to run the same pace you used to be able to run easily. You're not ending up on the podium as consistently or ever. You might be winning your age group, but that's a totally different thing than winning the race overall. Have I embraced it? Some of it I have. I mean, I'm looking at, the challenge of continuing to be my best into my 60s, 70s, hopefully 80s. Other elements, not being able to compete at a level I once was able to. It's a little demoralizing, I guess, but it's part of the human experience.
Yeah, that's right. And I mean, it's a privilege denied to some, I guess. So I guess we should embrace it, though it is hard. I do agree. And in this book, you talk about some of the racing that you do and the close relationship you have with your parents. How has that evolved with your racing?
No runner is an island, and this as well. I mean, once you get into running, it affects everyone in your life, your parents, your family, your immediate family, your friends. And, some people are not so keen on it, right? We've both seen, someone get into running and it's ruined relationships, or it's made relationships stronger. And with my parents, they've been along with me the whole time. They've enjoyed the ride as much as I have, and they're so supportive. So I thought, if I'm going to tell an honest story and an engaging story, it has to be true to, real life circumstances, and the real life circumstances is that my parents are very involved in my life, and I love it.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's lovely to read about. Now, you were also like you said, very honest and open in your book, and also about your relationship with your wife and your kids, worrying about the impact running has had on your family. Can you talk to us about that?
Yeah, I mean, as I said earlier, I've raced and competed on all 7 continents of Earth, so that requires some travel. And I mean, there were times when I was gone for months when my kids are in school, and there were I missed some important milestones, and not every important milestone, but some. And there's a saying that in school you get the lesson, then you take the test. In parenting, you take the test and then you get the lesson. So in hindsight, I probably would have done some things differently, but I'm not. There's no regrets. My kids turned out to be, compassionate, caring, and beautiful individuals.
Yeah, and I also read how your son was, crewing you at Western States, and he did such an awesome job.
Which was not what I expected. He's a funny kid. I mean, he complains about his college roommates being so sloppy. And every time I look in his room, it looks like a Tasmanian devil just went through there. It's just a mess. I'm like, so, he didn't seem to have taken crewing for me very seriously. And I said, Nicholas, this is an important thing. He's like, oh yeah, I got it. Don't worry about it. And I was very concerned that, he was going to let things, fall through the cracks, but he was incredibly responsible, which showed me a new side of him I'd never seen.
Yeah. And that would have been awesome. You're also very honest about how tough racing can be, and everyone seems to think that those up front have it easier. Can you dispel that myth for the listeners?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's magic in misery, and everyone experiences that magic. I don't care if you're winning the race or at the back of the pack. So I think it's empowering to people to learn that someone they think that can run forever and just breezes through every race suffers and has difficult races just like they do. So I tried to pick some races that I talk about in the race that were not necessarily good races, because I think those make better stories. A good race, you have the race and you don't learn too much. You have some champagne at the finish. A bad race, you tend to reflect and you look internally and see what you're made of.
So what's some lessons you've learned from racing?
That no matter how bad things can be, they can get better. We've all had that quote unquote come to Jesus moment where we thought, I'm done. Like, there's no way I'm going to keep going. And somehow, either yourself or someone else talked you into continuing, and you somehow make it to the finish, and you just prove to yourself that you're better than you thought you were, and you can go further than you thought you could.
Yeah. Yeah. You also talked in the book about how it really, doing this sort of running really helps you to learn about yourself. Can you explain a bit more about that?
Yeah, there's a few other sports hold a mirror up to you the way running does. You're forced to face your limitations with running and your shortcomings, and there's no faking it. If you have a time goal, say sub 4 or sub 3 hour marathon, and you don't make it, you have no one to blame but yourself. So running is a way of cutting through the BS and giving you a really honest look at yourself. There's a quote in there that says, running a marathon or running an ultra marathon, it builds character, but it also reveals character.
Yeah. Yes, very much so. And you can see that too with people going to aid stations as well. I guess you've noticed that too.
Yeah, it's like getting drunk with someone. There can be a really beautiful side of them you've never seen, or a really ugly side of them.
I like that analogy. That's very true. Now, one of my coaching clients wanted to ask a question. Adrian says that he's a huge fan of, I think the name's pronounced Michelle Graglia, I'm not really sure, who after reading your first book, changed his life and became a runner. And then 9 years later, he won Badwater and many other races. Adrian wants to know, how does it feel to know that people's lives have completely changed because of you and what you've written and how your journey and how you feel about inspiring others and what still drives you to continue with this?
I'll never get used to or take for granted the fact that I've inspired other people. I still can't get my head around that one. I mean, people come up to me. I mean, even, this past weekend I was at a race and people come up to me and say, God, you've changed my life. And I don't know how to respond. I mean, it's to me, it's somewhat of an obligation because, I've got to uphold the man I am, which thankfully I do to the best of my ability. But I just try to lead by example. And I think that people find that empowering more than anything else. I mean, they read my book and they thought, wow, if this guy who's just kind of an average guy can go do these things, maybe I can try it. And Michael, who you just described, he's done those things. He read my story and he changed his life. And to me, it's people say I inspire them, but the true story is they inspire me just as much.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you wrote Ultramarathon Man, were you, surprised by the reaction? Like, what were you expecting?
I just wanted to write it was like a life list kind of thing to do is write a book, like a bucket list item. I wanted to try sky. I wanted to jump out of an airplane. I wanted to swim with sharks, and I wanted to write a book. And so I wrote the book, and I thought, if 5 of my buddies buy this, I'll be lucky. And it was, an instant New York Times bestseller. I was shocked. I couldn't believe it, but it just said to me, there's power in what we do as runners and ultramarathoners. I mean, it holds a lot of power for people and inspires a lot of people. So many messages I get are from non-runners that have read that book or my recent book that they thought it was fantastic. And what we do appeals to people.
Yeah. I'm surprised that non-runners, we're getting so much out of it too. Like, that's awesome. Another one of my clients, Jane, wants to know, what's your secret to longevity? And how long do you hope to keep running for? Well, you just kind of said that into your 80s or more. But how do you stay injury-free? Because you have had no major injuries, as you said in the book.
Yeah, I do a lot of cross-training. So, one thing I never do is something you're doing right now. I never sit down. You can see I'm standing up right now.
You're right.
I'm barefoot. I'm bouncing on my toes and, stretching my calves. So I never sit down.
What about when you're writing your book? You don't sit down then? You stand for that whole?
Stand. Yep.
Wow.
I have a standing desk, all my emails, everything's standing up. And I also have a pull-up bar in my office and a sit-up mat. So I do, throughout the course of the day, I do HIIT training. So it's about a 12 to 14-minute routine of push-ups, pull-ups, chair dips, and burpees. So I'm doing, body weight exercises constantly throughout the day.
Okay.
As well as, I've optimized my diet. I've learned which foods to eat, which foods leave me feeling energetic, and what foods leave me feeling lethargic. And I've, eliminated those foods. So my diet's very optimized for longevity. I've worked on optimizing my sleep quality. These are things that we talk about, but not a lot of people put a lot of effort into really optimizing their sleep quality. So I think, I look at myself as trying to be the best animal I can be. It's not just one thing I do, but all of those things I hope, will let me keep running until my 70s and 80s.
And what other cross training do you do other than sort of body weight exercises?
I love to surf. I love to mountain bike, rock climb, mostly outdoor sports, Yeah.
So about how many Ks a week would you run, or miles or hours, however you measure it?
Yeah, it really, I have no standard week. Some weeks it's 100K, other weeks it might be 200K. So a lot, if I've got a training block, it's around 200K.
And so you would still find time to cross train within that?
That's because I'm doing 5 or 6, reps throughout the course of the day. It's not like I'm just saying, okay, I've got 1 hour to cross train. I'm cross training for maybe an hour and a half a day, but it's just spread out throughout the day.
Yeah. Well, that's definitely a testament to that. And in the book, you also spoke about yoga. You do some yoga too?
Yeah, I used to do a lot of yoga because I was going to a studio, the hot yoga.
Yeah, that's what I do. Yeah.
But, with COVID, you I don't know, have you kept it up during COVID yourself?
I tried to do it online, but I think I did it once. And our studio is open again, so I've been back, but it's, geez, you lose it quick.
Oh, really? You notice your flexibility is not what it used to be?
Yeah, terrible. Yeah. So, but yes, it is hard with COVID. And speaking of COVID, how have you coped?
Running has saved me. I've got to be honest. We talk about running as therapy, and those were kind of hollow words before COVID
Yeah.
because I just took it for granted. But my life just came to a screeching halt in that we talked about my travel schedule. I mean, I was on the road sometimes 250 days a year, so I was going to events almost every weekend, and all of the events got canceled. So no book signings, no fun runs, all the things that we runners love to do just came to an end, and I was faced to just sit in my house by myself, and it tested me for sure.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean,
well, yeah. So I love being by myself, but
there's a limit, isn't there? Yeah,
not all the time. Yeah,
that's right. I'm
not a hermit. I'm an introvert, not a hermit.
Yeah, yeah, and surprisingly, I mean, like you talked about, I mean, ultra running, a lot of it is yes, you run on your own, but it's still a sort of a team event when you're racing and that sort of thing.
Yeah, there's a lot of camaraderie when you're racing, and that is for sure. I mean, I also enjoy just running by myself, just for 8 or 10 hours on a trail somewhere alone. But I balance that with going to competitions and being immersed in the cheering people when you come into aid stations, and that element I miss tremendously.
Yeah, yeah. Now, you're as people know, you have your Greek heritage, and you did Spartathlon. How was that?
It was horrible and fantastic at the same time. It's all on the road, so it's 246 kilometers, or most of it's on the road, and it follows the ancient path of Phidippides, the original marathoner. So it's glorious in that regard. But there's traffic, there's pollution along the way. Those are all the things, the industrial things that I hate. But then when you get out, into the country, it's quite amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
Have you done the Spartathlon?
No, I haven't. Yeah, I haven't done many of those sort of long road ones.
Yeah, the road is tough. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's got quite tight cutoffs early on, doesn't it?
It does. You have to be at kilometer about 78 in 9.5 hours.
Wow.
Is a cutoff, and it's a tough 78 Ks. I mean, it's hot, it's kind of hilly, kind of rolling hills, and then when you get there, you're kind of fried, and you think, now I have 103 more miles to go.
Yeah, that's tough. And when you spoke about the Dolomites, have you done Tour de Géant? Is that the one that you've done over there?
Actually, I did hut to hut, and this was back probably 20 years ago. Buddy.
Okay.
We ran to the huts. We were the only runners back then. Everyone else was hiking. They thought we were crazy.
Yeah. No, that's a beautiful spot too. So have you got any races coming up?
It's funny you ask or say that, because I'm supposed to actually travel to Australia in August.
Oh, what for?
To do a race with, do you know Pat Farmer?
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's organizing a 4-person team race, a relay race with 4 Aussies and 4 Americans.
Oh.
And you started.
And it's going to be Australia versus US, is it?
Yeah, that's the idea. But it's also about camaraderie. I think it's less about, we don't need like competition. It just seems kind of inappropriate right now. It's more about helping each other out. But that's the plan. We're supposed to go from Broken Hill to Byron Bay.
And how many kilometers is that?
It's 1,600 kilometers.
Holy moly. And are you doing that in stage, like each day a certain distance, or are you just running nonstop?
No, it's 10 days, and we're going to cover 160 kilometers a day. So about 100-miler a day is the plan.
Wow. That's a lot. How are you going to look after yourself to be able to do that?
Pat put it all together, and he's a good marketer, and it's 1,000 miles. It's 1,000 miles, and he wanted to call it 1,000 miles to light. Kind of, we're crawling out of the darkness into the light, but it's also it ends at, we're going to touch Byron Bay Lighthouse. That's the finish line.
Nice.
The lighthouse, and I started thinking about it, saying, well, in 10 days, if we're going to sleep at all, we're going to have to run really fast so that
Yeah.
we're not just running the whole time. And I don't think he thought it through very well. And we're being supported by the Australian military, so they're going to set up
really?
like a makeshift camp every night for us, and they're going to cook for us. So hopefully that'll take it'll be easier. We'll just run in and kind of eat and go to sleep. But there's not going to be a lot else to do besides run and sleep. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow, that sounds amazing. I can't wait to follow on. What are the dates? I think you said August, but what are the actual dates?
It starts on the 13th of August and finishes on the 23rd. And there's
Awesome.
actually a
All right.
website. There's a
Oh, is
website.
there?
It's 1000milestolight.com.
Yep. Okay. All right. I shall put that in the show notes and look it up myself, to be honest. That sounds really interesting.
We got all of the U.S. team. We got special visas by the Australian government.
Cool.
So
Excellent.
But now there's a new round of lockdowns in Sydney. I'm kind of concerned about that. I don't know if you heard about what's going on in Sydney. Yeah.
Well, to be honest, just about every state in Australia is locked down at the moment or under some sort of restrictions. So it's But let's hope by August, because certainly I'm planning to be in Queensland around that time racing myself. So let's hope by August that things have, calmed down a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so if you were to give some advice to a runner beginning ultra running, what sort of advice would you give to them?
Invest in a good pair of shoes. Yeah, I mean, footwear, as you know, footwear technology has advanced so much in the past, 3 years. So, like Hoka's have just changed everything. It's made it so much less painful to run. Yeah. And so I would say go to your local running store and have them fit you for some good shoes. And it's going to be expensive, but it's really worth the investment.
Yeah. No, I agree. And what about to the older runners out there who are, getting demoralized with the slowing times, or who just feel that I'm too old for this? What do you say to that sort of thought process?
It just I use a technique called forward projection. So kind of project how much better you'll feel after you do your run than you currently feel, and use that that projected feeling to motivate you. Getting older, let's face it sucks in a lot of ways. But it also presents new challenges. So, something I've been doing a lot of is speed work, and it's horrible. I'm doing a lot more speed work. It's shorter bursts, but it's a new challenge. So, mix it up, try new challenges. If you're not a trail runner, try running on a trail. Yeah.
So did you not used to do speed work?
Not the way I'm doing it now. Like I'm doing like pretty intense tempo work, with like 4 or 5 miles, but only nose breathing and getting my heart rate over 200, which is pretty high.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
that's super high. For how long?
Well, I'm finishing like a 5-mile race with an average heart rate of about 188 to 189, with a peak of about over 200.
But I thought I always figured as you got older your heart rate would be a bit lower, like.
It's supposed to. I mean, the rule of thumb is 220 minus your age. So I mean, theoretically, I should be dead, but that's how hard I'm pushing.
That's awesome. I bet you feel great after that, though.
Oh, it's the best runner's high ever. Yeah, it's horrible when you're doing it. I mean, it is just, you feel like I see stars. Like I feel like I'm gonna black out. But if you can push through it, it's quite amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I used to have a coach many years ago who said if you weren't puking at the end of your speed work, then you weren't doing it right. I never puked, so clearly I didn't do it right. And so after, just back to what you're doing next. So you've got this Australia run coming up, and then I presume you'll need some recovery time. And do you have anything planned after that?
Yeah, I mean, right on the back of that, I'm supposed to go to Greece to run 10 marathons in 10 days in Greece to celebrate the bicentennial of Greek independence.
So how long after?
Like a week.
So yeah, no recovery.
I think I think what you're learning about me is I have a hard time saying no. Like
Yeah,
I
no,
don't
no.
say no.
Yeah, I can see that. I think my picture's frozen, but I am still here. Wow, that's a lot. What do you do for recovery?
I believe in active recovery.
Mm-hmm.
So after a big event, I run the next day. I mean, even after like 100 miler, the next day I'm gonna move. I'm gonna run maybe
Wow.
3 or 4 kilometers. I'm not just gonna sit idle. So I think I shouldn't even call it running. I mean, it's more like just hobbling,
Yeah.
just shuffling along. But I think that active recovery is such a better thing to do than just sit on a couch.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. So you don't take really any time off from running after you've had an event?
No, I really don't. I mean, it obviously the volume and the intensity is way less, but I really I don't. Yeah.
And that's amazing that you can stay uninjured. Like I've always felt I need some time off, but you must be, all that body weight work must make you very robust.
Yeah, I find if I'm just idle, it takes me longer to recover.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's fair enough. All
I have
righty.
a,
Well,
and yeah, and as the audio I presume is working pretty well. Your screen is frozen.
yeah, my screen's frozen, but I can see you and I can hear you. So if you just ignore the ridiculous face there, um, and we're all fine. So yeah, I don't know how to stop that basically. So your book is coming out in Australia. Do you know the exact date?
July 1st or 1st of
July
July. So
1st.
yeah, right around the corner. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, that's like a day away, really. So I can highly recommend the book from the perspective of a runner, but also just like you said, it's a really good read, and it's written very well. Like it's not just for runners. Like I think anyone could enjoy it, to be honest.
Well, I appreciate that. I mean, this book, I've actually gotten some pretty notable literary kudos on this book.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think that, like some of the more bookish sort of reviewers have given it really high marks, which makes me proud because, writing to me is like running. It's 1% inspiration, 99% perspiration.
Yeah.
So it's tough work. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I just find the way you describe things is really well done, because I could really see it in my mind. So yeah, well done to you.
Paint a picture with words. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And you certainly achieved that. So what I'll do is I'll put a link to where people can get that. I'll also put a link to your run in Australia so people can look that up, because that would be great. And I presume as the run is going, you'll have updates for that.
Daily updates. Yep.
Excellent. All righty. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. We've really appreciated your chat.
Yeah, no, thank you. And, thank you to your listeners. I don't know if you know, but I used to live in Australia.
Yeah, I saw that. When was that?
I lived in Sydney in 1980 to 1981 when I was in high school.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I've been back to Australia, many, many times. And I still have a lot of mates in Australia from school and from running as well. So part of my heart is in Australia, and I can't wait to get back.
Yeah, well, we'd love to see you back. Was that as part of an exchange as a student, or were your parents working here?
No, I was on my own. I exchanged as a student, and I lived in, like I said, in Sydney for over a year by myself. And I was 15, and it was the best year of my life. It was, it was so much fun.
Yeah. Oh, that would have been awesome. Yeah. Noah, we'd love to have you back, and we can't wait to see you running here. That'll be really excellent.
Yeah, and
hopefully,
I live in California, so maybe I'll start swimming right now, and I can get there in time for the race.
Exactly. You'll probably need to, the way things are going. Yeah. All righty. Well, thanks so much, and we'll speak to you soon. Maybe we can catch up after your big run here.
And enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye.